We cannot just see things go wrong and not air our minds. What would you say is the interest of these both parties?
There is no denying the fact that Wike does not have the interest of the state at heart.
Minister Wike is fighting for the rights of the people of Rivers State.
No, and that is not the case. Every politician wants to work with people they know, people they are sure of their loyalty towards them, and people they think they can trust.
Wike is trying to make Governor Fubara work according to his own saying.
Yes, there is no denying that fact. Wike is trying to force Fubara's hand. Fubara, as the current governor, only has about 4 to 5 state assembly members that are loyal to him. The rest of them are loyal to Wike, and I'm sure you noticed how they resigned.
Fubara said there should be no police around, and you cannot say there should be no security around you and not expect hoodlums or thugs to show up.
Fubara did not refuse the police to do their job. He did not refuse them entry into Rivers State or whatsoever, as Mr. Wike may have claimed. A crop of leaders that are so selfish. They promise to build a bridge where there is no river. This leadership structure, until our government give us what is right, we are not asking for too much. We are asking for what the Constitution states. The preamble of the 1999 Constitution clearly states that the primary function of the state is security and welfare of the people.
As regards the recent rift between Minister Wike and Governor Fubara of Rivers State, Port Harcourt, in today's episode, we'll be discussing about the consequences of their rift, as regard if this rift is for self-interest or for the state's interest. Welcome to Light African TV, where we share with you interesting content on education, entertainment, and also historical content. My name is Andrew Elizabeth, and on today's show, I'm having with me Mr. Harris, who will be shedding light on this political matter. Mr. Harris, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Very fine, thank you.
At first, when I was told to talk about this particular topic, it was sounding like you're about to step on toes, because when it comes to politics and Nigeria, we need to be very, very careful. But most times we cannot just see things go wrong and not air our minds. We have the right to air our opinions on issues like this. Now, reading through the recent interview that Wike had with channels and also the Governor Fubara, I could ask, looking at the two interviews, what would you say is the interest of these both parties? Because at least Minister Wike has his interest, also Governor Fubara has his interest. What is their interest as regard the crisis happening in the states?
Thank you for having me once again.
You're welcome.
All right, so if we must tell ourselves the truth, the interest is personal, of course, if we must tell ourselves the truth, because I can tell you for a fact that Wike, as a person, the immediate past governor of the state, is fighting for his personal interests. Mm-hmm. There is no denying the fact that Wike, if we judge by the antics, there is no denying the fact that Wike does not have the interests of the state at heart. Mm-hmm. And then as for the governor, I think it's difficult to say. I want to believe that he has the interest of the state at heart. But looking at him as the typical Nigerian politician that he is, there is no denying the fact that there is a likelihood of him having, there's no denying the fact that there is an undertone behind his reactions.
Every conversation he's having with the outside world.
There is no denying that fact.
So are you saying that Minister Wike is fighting for the rights of the people of Rivers State?
No, I've never said that. And that is not the case.
So
Wike is fighting for his selfish interests. Now, if we want to trace back to the beginning of the whole rift, again, it's difficult to say. Now, like you quoted earlier, the interview.
Yeah, between
Wike's own, Mr. Sheun, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Sheun asked Wike to state how it started. And Wike was quick to say that it all started with when Wike tried to remove the Speaker of the House of Assembly in the state.
Wow.
Yes, but if you ask me personally, I find it difficult to agree with Wike. I want to believe that Wike did not state the fact, the truth, because it started way before the attempt by the governor, Mr. Fubara, Sir Fubara. He's a knight, of course. The attempt by Sir Fubara to remove the speaker. Of course, there were attempts to remove the speaker, no doubt. But I can assure you for a fact that that is not where and how it started.
So I think Wike is standing on the ground that the crisis happening in Rivers State presently, the demolitions of houses and all that, is as a result of Governor Fubara not obeying the law, but is obeying power. What do you have to say about that?
Fubara, as the governor of the state, permit me to digress a bit. If you have been following the trends, you would realize that upon assumption as the governor of Rivers State by Fubara, Wike, as his predecessor, forwarded a list of nominees for commissioners, special assistants, and all the key appointments to steer the affairs of the state. Now, in over 99% of the names on this list constitute a part of the immediate past administration. I mean, Wike's administration.
Yes.
Which is to say that Fubara was forced to inherit the cabinet of the immediate past governor. And as far as politics is concerned, every politician occupying a public office would want to work with people they know and people they think they can trust.
They can trust, yes.
But this man inherited the cabinet of Wike. And he did not complain, as far as I know, because I've been following the matter from the very beginning. So he did not complain. So I don't think that Wike's assertion as to what started the crisis is correct, because I think he said, as at yesterday, a couple of days ago when he granted the interview, he said that the whole crisis started when Fubara tried to remove the local government chairman. That was what Wike said when he tried to remove the local government chairman. And there's no denying the fact that he inherited this chairman from the past administration. And I know for a fact that every politician wants to work with people they know, people they are sure of their loyalty towards them, and people they think they can trust.
So can we assume that Wike is trying to make Governor Fubara work according to his own sayings?
Yes, there is no denying that fact. Wike is trying to force Fubara's hand.
To do things he wants.
Do things Wike's way. Like, of course, Fubara inherited his cabinet.
So he has not even given up on that seat.
Even the state assembly is comprising of, I don't know if you've noticed anyway, but Fubara as the current governor only has about 4 to 5 state assembly members that are loyal to him. The rest of them are loyal to Wike. And I'm sure you noticed how they resigned. Likewise, the commissioners too, they resigned. I'm sure you must have noticed. So the commissioners, state assembly members are all loyalists of Wike.
So do you advise that Governor Fubara should submit to or adhere to what Wike is saying? Because reading the news, I think this afternoon, that's 7 hours ago, in courts accepted the fact that they banned the budgets which Fubara brought out as regard what Wike said. So it's like even the court and everything, they are working in alliance with Wike. So are you saying that Fubara should work also in alliance with him, just to make sure that his position right now is a successful one?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that, because I wouldn't do that if I were in Fubara's shoes. Because Fubara obviously is the current governor of the state. The the chief executive officer of the state. And as such, Fubara deserves every right to steer the affairs of the state in line with the vision he had in mind. We must not also forget that Fubara was personally handpicked by Wike to succeed him. So Fubara is more or less like a political godson to Fubara. But I don't want to accept the fact that a political godfather should dictate for his godson. I don't want to accept that fact.
So in your own opinion, what are the steps that you think that the governor of Rivers State should start stepping on? Because a lot of things are going wrong. When Wike was asked what is causing the crisis in the state as regards the election that happened, he said because Fubara said there should be no police around. And you cannot say there should be no security around you and not expect hoodlums or thugs to show up. So what advice would you give opinionistic to the governor of Rivers State?
No police around in what sense? No security. I don't get like.
He was asked what caused the crisis as regard the local government pool, whatever. So he said that Fubara instructed that there should be no securities. How would you say that as a governor there should be no securities? You know, he's trying to, well, the question he was asked was different, but what he was trying to say was different. Now he's trying to emphasize on the fact that Fubara is not obeying the law. He's only working according to power, or he's making use of the fact that I'm the governor, I have the right to do whatever I want to do.
You know, Nigerian politicians, Fubara never said that. As well-meaning Nigerians and a political analyst myself, I try to keep myself updated with political happenings in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for a fact that Fubara did not refuse the police to do their job. He did not refuse them entry into Rivers State or whatsoever, as Mr. Wike may have claimed. What rather transpired is the fact that the police tried to forcefully access election materials before the election date. And that is not ideal. Protect lives and property. So, of course, they have a very big role to play in every election. There is no denying that fact. But we must also admit the fact that they overstepped by bounds. Their bounds by trying to access election materials before election day proper. So it is only right for Governor Fubara to have exercised his powers by stopping them from accessing the election materials. He did not do anything more than stopping them from accessing the materials. He did not deny them access. As a matter of fact, let's not forget the fact that Fubara does not have the powers to deny police access in his state, because
funny enough,
we operate a federal police apparatus. We don't have state police in Nigeria. So let's not even forget that as much as the state governor is called the chief security officer of the state, it is just in principle. Practically, the state governor does not have any powers over the security of the state. It's just there as a figurehead. The commissioner of the police state commissioner of police is answerable to the IGP, who is in turn answerable to the president. So, and I'm sure you are familiar with the so-called the term order from above, as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Yes.
So the state governor, as the chief security officer of the state, can give orders. And before you know it, an order comes from above. Either the IG or the president gives an order, and the order of the governor will definitely stand down, because the governor of a state is handicapped as far as security issues is concerned. He doesn't have a say. Until we have a state security apparatus which will be manned by the indigents and citizens of that particular state, who know the nooks and crannies of the state, and who we can assume that they have the interests of the state at heart, we can only be deceiving ourselves. Because the last time I checked, Nigeria was a federation, and a federation that is claimed to have been modeled after that of the USA. Now, why did we say we modeled our federation after the USA when we are not copying in totality? The USA, as far as I know, they have state police. That's why you hear LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, New York Police Department. But in Nigeria, you have Nigerian police
Police
force, which is a federal apparatus. So the governor does not have the powers to say, oh, Mr. Policeman, you cannot come
You
here.
cannot
He
come
doesn't
in.
have those powers.
So it was only trying to protect
The election materials,
the election
which is
materials.
democratic.
So as regard this rift, how do you think this whole matter can be put to it? Because it's already affecting the states.
Yes.
Now, the people of River State are not seeing it the way it is being seen outside them. I feel most times we are being carried away by emotions, especially here in Nigeria. We move by emotions, we act by emotions. We are not always practical and factual about the things that we do. So what are the things that we feel that can be put in place for this rift to come to an end? Because it's already affecting the people.
Well, the things that can be put in place, I think efforts have been made. Mr. President himself has intervened. President Tinubu has intervened. He even set up a committee that made recommendations that the governor and Mr. Wike himself should follow in order to resolve the crisis.
The crisis.
But moving forward, and then, sorry to digress again, I don't know if you paid attention to the last election that was held. No single PDP member won the election. No single APC member won any election. It was APP that won 22 out of 23 local government. And even the 23rd local government, as at the day these results were announced, was inconclusive. The election, they did not declare for the 23rd local government. Now, APP, even though I've heard rumors that Sir Fubara is planning to, what's that word again that they use, cross carpet to APP, officially has not done it. But I think the rumors might just be true, because for APP to have won 22 out of 23 local government, I want to believe that...
down the top-known political parties.
Yes. I want to believe that Fubara APP must have the backing of Sir Fubara, of course.
On that.
Now, back to your question as to what I think is the way out of the problem or crisis, so to say. I think it's high time Barrister Wike come down from his high horse and accept the fact that he's no longer in charge. For Christ's sake, this is not the first time we are having the rift between a predecessor and his successor.
I think this is taking too long. Yeah.
Obaseki,
yes,
what's his name? Oshomole. We've seen enough drama. It's not the first time. But I think the way forward is for Wike to accept the fact that he is no longer in charge. There are so many cases to look back on. Fashola, Tinubu, Ambode, Tinubu. And recently, Sanwo-Olu and Tinubu as former governor, of course. But in all of these examples are just cited, except for Oshomole and Obaseki. Of course, Obaseki won, because despite the fact that he defected to PDP, he still won the second term. So the way forward, I think, like I said earlier, is for Wike to accept the fact that he is no longer in charge of the state. He has moved on to assume the role of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, and he needs to give Mr. Fubara, who, of course, is not a total stranger to him. For Christ's sake, he personally handpicked Fubara to succeed him. So I think it's high time Wike give Mr. Fubara, Sir Fubara, of course, the chance to rule. He needs to realize that his days are over. And he shouldn't forget the fact that he has responsibilities as the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. He has lots of responsibilities.
So he's leaving his own responsibility to focus on.
Yes.
Okay. Amazingly, I want to ask our last question for today. What can we, or where can we pinpoint that corruption is starting from as a state? Should we say the people, the government? Because now, if the people are rising up and saying, "Oh, the government are polluted," and the government are rising up to say the people are also not doing what we want them to do, where can we pinpoint that this is where corruption is coming from as a state?
Okay, I'm sure you're not being specific to River State. I'm sure you're not specific to River State. It's a general question.
General question.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Can we take Nigeria for in perspective? All right. So corruption in Nigeria, if we want to be sincere with ourselves, both the people and the government have a fair share of the blame. Because as much as Nigerians, I mean citizens, we are quick to put the blame on the government, we are quick to forget the fact that we have a fair share of the blame as well. Because between you and I, we know for a fact that every Nigerian is corrupt. Whether we are coming from the moral perspective, cultural perspective, or social or whatever perspective, we are all corrupt. The average Nigerian is corrupt at heart. In the way we think, the way we treat people, the way we do things, we are all corrupt. Now, but I am confident of the fact that the government, of course, share a larger part of the blame. Why? It's simple. The modern state, according to the social contract theory, is an agreement between the people and the government. So the people have given up their so-called natural right to submit to a modern state that guarantees them protection, provision of employment opportunities, provision of welfare services, basic amenities, infrastructures, security of lives and property and all of that.
Yeah.
And in return, the citizens owe the state certain duties and obligations. Pay taxes, environmental sanitation, obey rules and regulations, amongst many others. Now let's ask ourselves, between the two, has the state lived up to its expectation? Has the people lived up to their expectation, their end of the bargain? That being said, the government, there is no denying the fact that our problem is a leadership failure. We have a crop of leaders that are so selfish that they care less about the interests of the people. Even though during campaign electioneering, they make bogus promises.
Yes.
They promise to build a bridge where there is no river. Yes. And so corruption is coming from the part of the leadership structure. Corruption in the sense of this leadership structure diverts public funds. They divert public funds. They lie. They make promises that they know they cannot fulfill. All in the name of trying to get the fingerprints on the ballot on the day of election.
Candidates.
The moment the election has come and gone, they forget that you exist. They only come back when they need your vote again. That's 4 years later. So, corruption, of course, we are all corrupt as Nigerians, but a larger part of the blame is on
to the
leaders. Because I think a majority of us has chosen to become whatever it is that we are today that makes us corrupt because our government has failed us. So you see Nigerians deploying every means necessary to survive.
To survive, yes.
Robbery and all sorts of social vices, cultism and what have you, just to survive. This is survival instincts at play. We are just trying to get by. So until our government give us what is right, we are not asking for too much. We are asking for what the Constitution states. For Christ's sake, the preamble of the 1999 Constitution clearly states that the primary function of the state is security and welfare of the people.
And I don't think that security is anywhere close to security, especially here in Nigeria.
And what is the cause, if not corruption? Favoritism, nepotism, and all of this. If you ask me, the way out of our current predicament, I think protest, is the right step. But unfortunately, we live in a country where the likes of Dele Giwa lost their lives for criticizing the government of Babangida. The likes of Kensarowiwa and the other Ogoni, people were killed for demanding for the cleanup of Ogoni.
So should we still go for
in
protest?
recent times, EndSARS, even though the government finds it difficult to acknowledge the
accept
fact
that
that they shot at innocent
they
people
made a
that
lot of
were
lies.
carrying Nigerian flags. Even though they refuse to admit that fact, there is no demand, because different forensic investigations revealed that those soldiers that shot were actually Nigerian soldiers. But unfortunately, the government have denied. So in Nigeria, of course, protest has not been working. But there's no denying the fact that protest is the way. Because, okay, look at Sudan in recent times. It was just a female student, university student in her early 20s that led the protest. Tunisia, as at 2011, it was a university student that set himself ablaze in protest of the hardship that they were experiencing in Tunisia. And it spread across the whole of North Africa. It was called the Arab Spring. Now, if you want to travel back in history again, the first revolution that was ever recorded in history, 1789, France. For a simple reason. The monarch, Louis XIV, increased the price of bread in the midst of great famine. And in all of this, he was sponsoring the American Revolution, which eventually took place in 1776. Finances and troops and all of that.
If you're trying to compare other countries to Nigeria, like I said before, Nigeria, we are very sentimental, emotionally. Just imagine the last protest. What has you carrying a pot have to do with the issue on ground? I know they are trying to prove a point, but when you try to look at other countries and how they push out their grievances, Nigerians don't do that. According to what you said, 80% of the blame goes to the leaders. But if we, as the citizens, in person, can just decide to be factual about what we really want. Because when somebody comes out and say, oh, I want to protest against this, and maybe behind closed doors, they are able to tip you a little thing, you end the protest, then they turn it to be content. It becomes content. Everything in Nigeria now is content. They don't want to care how it's hurting people, how people are feeling about it. They just feel the whole country is now a place of you just making fun of it. Now, if you're trying to compare Nigeria with other country, we should understand that our mindset, the way we think, the way we see things is different. And that's why I think we are failing, or we are lacking behind, because we are trying to compare ourselves with other states, other countries. We are trying to emulate them, understanding that we are Africans. There's a way we see things. There's a way we reason things. And I think that's one of the major problems we have, our mindset, how we see, the perspective of how we see the political era. What's your take on that?
I don't think emulation is a bad thing. Let's not forget the fact that these people, I mean the Europeans, of course, they came here and imposed their systems on us. Democracy. Do you think we were ripe for democracy when they introduced us to democracy? I don't think so. Democracy is not African. It's not an African ideology or concept or whatever we may choose to call it. Now, I think what we need as a people is to come up with policies, build systems, build institutions that are peculiar to our reality. We need to start looking inwards for African problems, Nigerian problems. Now, the more we keep looking out for them to come to our rescue, we are rather deceiving ourselves, because the reality, the fact is that these people don't care about us. And it's unfortunate that we don't know. Of course, a few of us may know, but majority of us don't know. Look at the leadership class, for example. They are quick to run to IMF, World Bank to borrow money. Now, when you borrow money from these Bretton Woods institutions, IMF and World Bank, Bretton Woods institutions, what they do is to dictate for you how you run your economy. And whatever advice they give you, SAP, structural adjustment policies, cut down taxes, open your borders to free trade, cut down taxes, excise duties, and all of that. They are not doing these things. Why are they asking us to do these things if they have our best interest at heart? So I agree with you when you say the solution to our problem is not far-fetched. It doesn't lie in us trying to emulate them. It doesn't lie in us asking them for help. We don't need them until that the leadership class realizes that we are our own problem. until they realize that we need to look inwards to find solutions that can be tailored to suit our problems. Then we can only be deceiving ourselves. So, protest works over there. It has been working. First revolution, 1789, France. Second one is 1917, Russia. When Stalin took over from the Tsar, Tsar Alexander, the last Tsar that ruled over Russia. Then China, 1945. Against the last dynasty that ruled China, of course. These three revolutions redefined the modern state that you have come to know it today. But has this approach worked in Africa? Yes, it worked in North Africa, East Africa, Sudan, Kenya. In recent times, I'm sure you saw it. Yes. So if it worked there, it can work here. But the problem we have here in Nigeria is the fact that we have a problem of disunity. I can tell you for a fact that our major problem is the problem of disunity. We are not united as a people. We don't have a united sense of purpose. Because every typical Nigerian I know identifies with the people of his tribe and religion first before he sees himself as a Nigerian. So we need to get rid of that mindset.
So the
as
selfish
Yes.
mindset.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison, for coming
Thank
to
you.
the show. It's really amazing to have you. I'm not really into politics, but on the surface of it, I can still say with the little we've heard from you today, we really need more of people like this who can really go deep into it and share. Thank you for coming on to the show.
It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. All right, this is where we are going to be ending it on today's show. This is Light African TV, as you all know. And I want to please indulge every one of our viewers to always do these things I'm about to talk about. Make sure you always like our content, share, drop your comments. Your comment keeps us coming. When you drop your comments, it gives us a push to keep coming. And also don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel at Light African TV. And see you in our next episode.